So there's talk of a handgun ban, an assault weapon ban in Canada. The Prime Minister's office reached out to subordinates saying, let's investigate a ban, the possibility of a ban on handguns and assault weapons, which is a politically charged term, assault weapon. Without affecting, legal owners of firearms. Well, how do you have a ban on something without affecting people who own it? Anyway, now on social media and in groups that I follow, there's people in Australia saying this is how it started with us. It was just murmuring and talking about a ban, and then it turned into a mandatory buyback. A mandatory buyback that, by the way, at the end of the day, didn't actually result in the surrendering of a lot of firearms. They didn't get all of them, apparently. So it was like a political stunt or theater or whatever, but in any event, people often cite Australia as being this model when they had that mass shooting, and then they did this buyback of firearms, and since then there hasn't been another mass shooting. Correlation doesn't equal causation. Until they have another one, right? They could have one. There's still firearms in Australia. But Australia is not the United States, and Australia is not Canada. And Canada, our crime statistics are actually really good for Western nations. We're not that bad a place for gun crime or otherwise. But a recent spate of shootings and some recent horrible events has this topic now in the forefront, and people are discussing a handgun ban. It's not very popular. It's not very popular amongst even the police agencies. The top cops in Canada are like, it's not a good idea. There's no real reason for it. Because the fact of the matter is, most guns used in crimes and in gang activity are sourced illegally. And I know people say, well, there's a statistic out there that says half of all guns used in crime were sourced domestically. Well, that statistic is bullshit. It's misleading. It works out to about 9% of crimes, 12% of crimes with guns were sourced in Canada. And guns sourced legally is even smaller. It's a tiny statistic of people buying guns legally and then using them in crimes. See, what the statistic is misleading about is that any guns that are seized or recovered as part of police duties, that they don't know that it came from the United States. They assume it was sourced domestically. If they can't trace it, if they don't know where it came from, they assume it was sourced domestically. Now, the validity of that point of categorization, can be called into question, but it is misleading, because if you don't know where it is, where it came from, you can't very well say, well, it must have come from here. The other misleading thing about the statistic is it includes any gun seized at any time. So even if somebody was served a warrant at their address for gun crime or for drug crime or something unrelated to the gun, and the gun wasn't used at any point, and they can't even prove it was used at any point in any other crime, they seize it, and that's rolled into the statistic as well. And of course, if it was seized from somebody who had a legal right to own it, well, then that goes into the statistic slot of legally sourced crime gun. So it's a bunch of bullshit statistics that add up to that 50% of all guns seized, crime guns seized, are Canadian. It's simply not true. And when I think of crime gun, I think of a gun used in the commission of a crime. I don't think of a gun that was in somebody's nightstand when the cops served a drug possession warrant or some other warrant. Anyway, so the question is to the legal gun owners, what do we do? Let's imagine they do go forward with a ban, even though it's wildly unpopular, even though the top cops in the land say it's not a good idea. What do we do? If we're given an order to surrender our firearms, I have handguns, so if I'm told to surrender my handguns, I want to be a law-abiding citizen, but I don't want to surrender my property to what I see as a tyrannical move. I legally acquired the property. I legally, went through the steps to become a licensed firearm owner. What do I do? Now, my dad's a retired cop. I know what he would say. He would say, you surrender your firearms. And then when the next government comes in, you petition the government to have your property returned. Never mind the fact that they'll probably all be melted down by that point. And the question then goes, do you really think the conservative government would unban handguns? Would return the property of people that were seized years previous? No, I don't think they would. And it's not to say that the conservative government isn't more friendly towards gun owners in Canada. They are. But the fact is, if the government gets a hold of your guns, they're not going to give them back, not willingly. And I sound like a 1776er or one of those crazy Second Amendment people. We don't have a Second Amendment in Canada. But history has proven that's to be the case, that if the government gets a hold of the citizens' guns, they don't give them back. Not the same government anyway, not the same model. Like it would take the collapse of the current structure and the development of a new system in order for people to be refranchised with their rights to have firearms. Now I know what else my father would say, retired cop. He'd say, well, you don't have a right to a firearm in Canada. We don't have firearm rights in Canada. Well, then it gets into the philosophical argument. Everyone has the right to self-preservation. That's not even a right that the government grants. And the government doesn't grant rights, by the way. We have rights. The government is there to guarantee our rights, to protect our rights. This idea of top-down, distribution of rights is mind-boggling to me. But anyway, I don't know what we do. So, I got sent a letter by the CFO saying new legislation requires that all handguns be surrendered to the RCMP. You are given a one-time ATT to take your firearms to this place where they're going to be disposed of. Failure to do so will result in a summons. Well, civil disobedience, I could say I ain't gonna do it. Then what happens? I get a subpoena, or I get a summons. While I am being processed at the courts, the CFO or the local police come to my house with a warrant, bust in, remove the safe where my firearms are stored, and I lose my property. Or I go to the summons, and it's all very bureaucratic, and they set up a time and date for the CFO and the local police to come and confiscate my firearms. And if I'm not home, they'll bust down my door to do it. That's probably the likely scenario, more likely scenario. But who knows? So, in those cases, I don't know what to do. Do I hide them? In which case I'm in violation of the law and go to jail? Do I refuse the summons and hunker down in my house, load up my firearms and take shots at cops when they try and bust in my door? No. I'm looking for suggestions to other legal firearm owners. What do we do? I mean, apart from the advocacy, apart from joining the CCFR, and apart from, donating to advocacy groups and supporting advocacy groups in online media, which is what we should be doing, which is what I do. What do we do as firearm owners when the time comes, when they say surrender your guns? I'm looking for suggestions. Other firearm owners who watch this channel or see this video, give me some advice. Comment below. Once again, this will be uploaded to BitChute as well. So hopefully some of you people who follow me on YouTube can go over to BitChute and start following me there too. Anyway, I'm at work. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to y'all soon.